Welcome, everyone. It is the April call, and we're really going to focus today, kind of been leading up to this, focus today on imposter syndrome and how that shows up for us in this field. And I do realize that we have people from different professions here. This is largely going to be focused at dietitians, but it is something that shows up, I think, pretty much in anyone that's human. So um, I'm sure you'll find some pieces that are applicable, even if you are not a dietitian, but still working in culinary medicine. The concepts will still apply across the board. So we're really going to get into that today, kind of what it is, where it comes from, and how we can overcome that and not let it hold us back from accomplishing really cool things in this field. So if you're new to the call, even if you're not, I know you're used to this already, but just please introduce yourself. I like to get to know who we have here in the community. And I guess our question for today, I was thinking about this recently. What is your favorite cookbook? I was just going through a few of mine and getting some inspiration. So I always like to expand my collection if there's some other really good ones out there. I know there's also some not good ones. So this is not about your least favorite cookbook, but your favorite cookbook. Mind, body, spirit food. Ooh, I'll have to check that one out. Thanks, Jessica. Mine's actually one that I got from a place I lived as a kid. Actually, my mom got it and I just kind of appropriated it. The Secrets of Amelia Island. I know a lot of local spots have their own community type cookbooks, and sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not so much, but that one's been lovely. It has some really nice ideas, and some of my favorite recipes have come from it. The new cookbook, Meditations Paired with Each Recipe. Oh, I really dig that, Jessica. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Nice. Very nice. Any other favorite cookbooks? Or even like uh recipe blogs. I think that counts as a cookbook too. Doesn't have to be a old school analog cookbook, I suppose. Well, if you guys think of any, please pop it in. Okay, Lindsay, San Francisco. Early in my journey, school for health coaching. Ooh, all right. Nice. You might, at least to my knowledge, I think you might be the first health coach in this space. Very nice. I want to connect on that a little bit later. Favorite cookbook is Raw Food French Style. It's unique and includes meat as well. I'll have to check that one out. French style. Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. I love what you guys come up with because it always gives me fresh ideas for things and it gives me new resources as well. So this is nice to see what everyone's up to and what we got going on. Budget Bites blog. Nice. Okay. I haven't checked out any of these. This is great. I have a whole new set of things to do. Love it. Love it. Okay, guys, I could talk about this for quite a while, but I'll get going on our topic today so we can get to our discussion. So I think a few of you have been here, but we do still have a few new folks. So just want to let you know you're in the right place. If pretty much you have anything to do with culinary medicine, it's pretty broad. If you're wanting to learn more about this and how to integrate it into your practice, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, don't know where to start, this is also a good place to come. Or if you've already been practicing this, but you want to hone your craft or take it in a different direction, feel more confident in yourself as a facilitator. We do talk a lot about alignment and confidence, and it's adjacent to today's topic. And maybe you just want to hang out and hear about what we chat about. We do have some flies on the wall, and that's cool too. Just to kind of gather information and see if this is a space you do want to work in. A little bit about me. I've been practicing culinary medicine for about 13-ish years now. I've been a dietitian for 15, and I've always been interested in cooking. It was something I bugged my mom about constantly when I was a kid. So I like to joke that I started 30 years ago or so. And as I became a dietitian, it just didn't make sense to me that the cooking part was separate in a way, right? Like that we didn't involve our interaction with food and thoughts and choices, in that entire thought process and decision-making process in our nutrition education. Not really, at least when I was in school. And I still think there's some of that today. It was very clinical, but very kind of cut and dry, less human. And as a consequence, I just brought that into my practice when I became a dietitian, and it kind of snowballed into culinary medicine and creating a program, then building a national program. And now I like to just help people build their own programs and enhance it and make it a bigger deal because I really feel like this matters and there needs to be more culinary medicine programs out there in the world. It just makes sense. So I need to update this slide because it's been more than 12 years now. But I have quite a bit of experience, not just with my own programs, but helping other clinicians with their programs as well. So I have a lot of not just scaling and expansion type experience, but even just unique experience with different settings and different forms this can take. And that's one of my favorite things about this is there really isn't a cookie cutter version of a teaching kitchen because they're all unique to the population and the resources and the facilitator. And I think that's such a cool thing. It might drive other people nuts, but I love it. It means that we can expand and bend the rules a little bit. And I think that's going to lead into today's topic quite nicely because that's a lot of where imposter syndrome comes from and shows up for us is having a predefined set of rules or expectations in our field and feeling uncomfortable sometimes being innovators in this space and going against the grain or against established norms. So we'll talk more about that. But overall, it's my dream to see this become the standard of care and accessible to all peoples. That's really what I'm after. So I am on a mission to help dietitians and other clinicians, but being a dietitian and working in this space, that is where I'm coming from. Integrate this into their practice. And I really want to share insights, guidance, and perspectives that I see show up again and again for people when it comes to facilitation, excuse me, and the leadership of culinary medicine in practice. So let's get on with it. And if you don't know me, you'll learn very quickly. I like to ask questions. That's how I get to learn more about people and get the right thoughts going. Who or what have you been comparing yourself to lately? That's our question today. You can answer in the chat. I know this one is a little bit more of a personal subject, so please don't feel like you have to ever. But it's something I want to bring out in the open. This is part of how I should say we dispel imposter syndrome as well, is talking about it with other people in our circles, with other people in our field. Because chances are other people have these thoughts and feelings too. Maybe not about the exact same topic or subject or person or thing, but they're there, I promise, at every level. So, what have you been comparing yourself to lately, and what has that cost you? And when I ask this follow-up question, I'm thinking, like, what has that comparison cost you? What is holding, like, if something's holding you back, what is that leaving you without? Could you have accomplished XYZ if you hadn't been held back or compared to this other thing? Is it stopping you from taking an action right now? Is it stopping you from moving forward in your line of work somehow? Is it making you feel inadequate so you don't pursue opportunities that you probably are very well qualified for? That's what I mean with this one. What is it costing you? Yeah. So sit with that a bit, even if, and again, please feel free to pop in the chat. I keep the chat window open while I'm talking, so that way, if we want to interact, we can. But Monique says the food bank. Okay, I'm not surprised to hear that one, especially after our chat before. Oh, okay. Went to a conference recently and saw an RD who advocates authenticity, in dietetics. And it had me wondering if I'm able to be found authentic in my role. Made me feel like I still have some discordance and misalignment in what I want versus what I do. That's a powerful one. Wow. Yeah. I was actually going to say that part of the reason I picked this topic for this month, because I feel like we are kind of in the swing of conference season, and it comes up a lot when we see really cool, motivating, powerful speakers. We start to compare, right? We start to compare. Um, and even if it's not comparison, it evokes these thoughts in us, right? I think actually, quite frankly, Jessica, this doesn't feel as much like comparison, but with the authenticity, right? You're hearing her message and you're, percolating on how that applies to you and finding where there is some dissonance and we can bring that back into alignment. Maybe not today. That one does take some some work, but that's very profound. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So this can, I think these examples, there's really no wrong answer. I just want to point that out here. And really to anything I ask, there's not wrong answer. It's all relevant to you. So if it could be a person, it could be an entity, an organization, it could be something you don't have. It could be just a thought or a perspective or a feeling. Oh, that's exactly right, Jessica. The discomfort does force growth. I've been dealing with something like that myself recently. Just in, quite frankly, I'll share my piece here. Having my own business now versus being attached to a large organization has made me feel like an imposter in some spaces that I've worked in for years and a decade even. Um, and I'm finding, where I fit now and who I want to be to my community in a different way now that I have a different position. And that's kind of where I've been sitting and figuring out, I guess, in my own journey here. So it is uncomfortable. I do feel some misalignment too, but I feel like I'm close. I can sense that I'm getting closer to where I'm supposed to be. It's just taking some finagling and really just trying things out. And that's kind of what I want to get to today is don't let the discomfort or the fear keep you from trying the ideas that you have, keep you from moving forward. That's that's where this comes in. That little voice in the back of our head, that discomfort even, it doesn't necessarily go away, but it doesn't mean we have to submit to it either, right? We can find a way to move forward with it and keep it small and in the corner instead of interrupting or getting in our way. Yeah. Renata shares, I compare myself with other RDs with clinical experience. I've never worked in a clinical or private practice setting. Ooh, that's another one. There's so many different areas within dietetics um, that can also make us feel like we don't quite belong in the space we're trying to be in. Yeah. So So it shows up in so many different ways. These responses are great, guys. I feel like you've covered such a broad range of how this can show up for us without, kind of all being in the same pot. This is really nice. This is really nice. So hopefully, as we go through today, I shouldn't say hopefully, what I'd like to ask of you is whatever you came up with, whether you shared it or not, even if you didn't share it in the chat, write it down on a piece of paper for yourself. I want you to sit with that during today's call and see what comes up for you. This can be a little journal exercise. And again, it can be private, or again, I welcome you to share in the chat if you want to kind of share your thoughts on this. And we'll talk about this towards the end when we open it up for our discussion. And just think through how you feel about it. Yeah. Okay. So, this phenomenon, I feel like it shouldn't be here, but it is. We're all very accomplished professionals in one way or another, but different ways. And it's the difference that makes us feel uncomfortable sometimes. We as human beings have an innate desire to belong. And us doing different things or having different expertise or following different paths challenges that need for belonging sometimes because it puts us at odds. We're afraid that the group will reject us or not welcome us, or we won't be aligned with them if we really follow what we want to follow. So it's really coming from a place of belonging and essentially a feeling of safety with our community, with our people that we've chosen. Um, we have the professional background, even if you're not a dietitian, whatever your background is, That counts. We have a background. We have experience and expertise in this. We see the opportunities where we can be of service to others and help other people. We see those. And some of us have even leaned into that already, and we've built things with it. We've built programs, we've started classes, we've led educational activities, we've created new opportunities for our community and partnerships. But despite all of that, we still feel somehow, somewhere, that we don't actually belong in the space or that we don't have XYZ that someone else has. Don't mind my typos, please. um, that still shows up despite all this experience and evidence to the contrary. And it's not a knowledge gap. Pursuing extra credentials, pursuing knowledge is not going to be the fix here. We'll get back to that in a second because I don't want to say don't pursue knowledge, period, but it's not going to fix the imposter syndrome. It's not going to solve that. That takes a little bit more work on a deeper level. Knowledge can help with that, but it's not going to just make it go away. Um, Part of why we are particularly susceptible to this is because we work in the health field. We are trained to be precise and evidence-based. There is a certain amount of liability that comes with practicing and telling people things. Even if you're not in the clinical side of this world and you're more on the community side or the public health side, that still applies, except now it's showing up in, information and misinformation, right? I think we're all very aware that there's rampant misinformation since, I mean, well, since the dawn of time, probably, but especially in this social media age of our world. And we kind of have this extra burden of being very hyper aware of what we say, how we say it, what claims we're making, what we're practicing. Is there a paper trail for us to justify this at all times, right? We're hyper aware of doubt, and that kind of bleeds into us in our practice and that level of scrutiny as well, right? We always feel like someone is looking at us under a microscope, that we have to prove every single thing. And part of that exists so that there is a standard to practice that is not wrong, and that's just part of how we organize our world. But that doubt and that scrutiny don't have to be quite so consuming. Not so consuming that it holds you back from innovation, which is still what leads our entire field. We don't want to forget that the entire medical field, all of the professions, medicine, dietetics, culinary medicine, pretty much anything ever, I would say, is still an evolving field because we're still learning. We don't know everything there is to know. There's always opportunity to expand and grow, even if it's uncomfortable. And dietetics in particular, I do think we do feel this a little. I can't speak to this per se because I'm not a physician, but I do feel like there's a little extra here, or maybe any of the ancillary professions, because we're still fighting for a seat at the table anyway, right? There's still doctors out there that don't refer to dietitians and don't ever think of us. There's still, right? We're kind of finding our way in this space, and that becomes internalized as well. We kind of have to fight for every new step that we take. And even if we aren't fighting collectively as a profession, there is a push there. There is and a little chip on the shoulder too amongst our own professionals. So now we've entered this catch-22 space, right? Where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You do it and it's a really good idea, but sometimes we're even put down by our own profession because we went ahead. And quite frankly, that is a reflection of their insecurities and their own imposter syndrome being projected onto you. It's not personal to you, but it doesn't mean it doesn't get to us sometimes. Doesn't mean we don't feel that. And again, that challenges that innate desire to belong and be accepted by our community. So we just got to remember where it's coming from. I feel like after today, we're all going to have to go to therapy. We're going to bring up some deep stuff here. But remember who you are. Remind yourself of the facts, okay? You are the XYZ expert. You are the food and nutrition expert if you're a dietitian. Doesn't mean you're the expert in every area of dietetics and you don't have to be. Just like physicians aren't the expert in every discipline of being a doctor, right? You have your specialties, even with that. Everything does. And that is okay. Part of it is just owning that, saying, I'm not an expert in clinical dietetics, but I am an expert in teaching people how to cook and feed themselves and make informed and intuitive food choices. There you go. Like, own your space, whatever that space is. That is yours and nobody else has it or does it the same way as you. Okay. Um, I feel like I'm going to take a little step specifically into culinary medicine now, not just dietetics as a whole, but specifically with this, I find a lot of dietitians and clinicians feel like they don't belong or they don't, who am I to do this? Because they don't have the culinary background. And that is valid. They feel the gap. But you don't have to have the whole 9 yards to be able to teach one slice of it, right? Um, and quite frankly, a lot of culinary school may not be applicable to people's home kitchens, right? So think of the piece you need and go find education in that to make yourself more proficient. Practice it as well, right? Build up that confidence like we talked about last month. You don't have to have the whole thing for it to still be of service to you and thus service to whoever you are helping in the world. Um, and again, just a reminder, even within the evolving field of medicine, culinary medicine is a really new space and it's a very innovative field. There's there's entities out there trying to put rules on this and credentials on this, and I get that. It's just going to happen. We like to define things and have standards of practice. And again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but we do have to take it with a grain of salt. And those things still aren't in place yet. So we're in this little free-for-all zone right now where it can go in different directions. We can make what we want of it to a degree. And that's a really lovely place to be, I think. It's uncomfortable, but it can yield really cool things if we're just brave enough to step into those spaces. Just remember, we are operating in this space, this field that really hasn't been fully discovered or defined yet. So there are no rules. I mean, there are a few rules. I think, sticking to your code of ethics is just hands down a safe place to to go. Barring any violation there, you can pretty much do what you want. Yeah. And again, you don't need that full scope of someone else's profession. You just need your piece. I've said this a few times in other calls. You don't have to be everything to everyone. And this is partly where it applies. You don't. You just have to be you and work to your strengths and share what you know. There are other people to fill in the blanks. We don't have to do it all. I would even say this is an extension of that all or nothing perfectionist mindset, which actually is a subset of imposter syndrome. So there we have it. But we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be all knowing. We don't have to be infallible. We just have to be us and share what we do know and work in the space that we can and grasp those opportunities we see arise. Okay, the comparison trap. I know this came up in the chat, so it's really great that this was already kind of pre-gamed for our talk today. So this one, I fall into this one a lot too. I mean, I fall into all of them. I think anybody does at some point in their life, but we see other professionals in this space, like a polished speaker, impressive programs, all the credentials, right? The unicorns that are PhDs and dietitians and chefs um, in this space. I will say when I first started in culinary medicine, and I was building my program, I felt this so heavily. I went to Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives, and I was like, I had that feeling. I'm like, who am I to do this? I don't have those credentials. But then I thought to myself, they're speaking about this as if it's a new concept and that this doesn't exist yet. And I have a program that I've built and been running for years. And actually, that was built off of an adjacent program that started in the 80s. So what I did is I took this feeling that I was sitting with and I refuted it with factual information about what I had actually accomplished and what actually existed in my world. And it helped me to overcome that feeling like I didn't belong. I had something to bring to the table. It was not the same as the other person, but you know what? Who wants to show up to a potluck where everyone brings the exact same dish? Not a nice potluck. Okay. We want a potluck where everyone brings something different. Okay. This is just a giant potluck. Let someone else bring the cake. You can bring a lovely bean and barley salad. You could bring a pie. You could bring a main dish. Bring whatever. It doesn't have to be the same, and we don't want it to be the same because then it's a very boring potluck. And anyway, I kind of came to that realization. Now, I'm not going to say it's never come back to haunt me. I see it. I've kind of made the choice not to pursue a PhD at this point. Not that that'll stand forever. Who knows what I'll want in another few years. But right now, I don't want to. But I see some of my colleagues doing that. And I have colleagues who've gotten their PhD since I've known them and been working in this space together. And I do feel a little inadequate compared to them. I don't have the same letters. But again, I just remind myself what I have accomplished, and that's pretty amazing and unique. No one else in the world has done what I've done. And I bet no one else in the world has done what you've done. Not the same way, not to the same degree or scale or success level. Okay. We all have our things, our experiences that make us unique in this space. That's what we need to lean into instead of comparing ourselves to others. Because if we chase that, we're never going to be satisfied, right? We're always going to feel inferior because there's so much in the world. It's impossible for us to be everything and know everything. Yeah. The other thing I want to mention here is that, and we see this a lot on social media too, and I think it's slightly less so in the professional world, but it certainly still is there, is we are also comparing our insides to someone else's outsides, right? We're comparing our sense of self, our vocation, our workspace, our programs, what we bring to the table, our careers, to this polished image or persona that someone else is putting on, right? We want to remember that when we see people posting on LinkedIn, or we see them at a conference, or that we read their paper or article, we are seeing a very polished version of them, right? We are seeing the best of them, and that's great. But we can't just take that and compare that to the worst of us, right? Or inside insecurities or anything like that. That's not a fair comparison. It's apples to oranges, right? Not even orange to orange, you know. But don't do that. Don't do that. You're taking their best day and comparing it to your worst day. And that's simply not fair or true. It really isn't. And I do want to say here too that remind yourself that that person also feels imposter syndrome about their own things. Everyone feels it differently and about different things, but it doesn't ever go away. You just learn to live with it and move through it. And that person on the stage probably felt exactly like you do now at some point in their journey, right? And they probably do still feel it to some degree, just about something else. Maybe not. Maybe it is about their own topic. It does take a lot of guts to get up and declare your expertise and open yourself up to scrutiny and criticism. It's not an easy thing to do because anytime we do that, we are challenging that potential inclusion and belonging. Sorry, this slide is so low, but I guess there it is. So I feel like I'm making an assumption here that imposter syndrome shouldn't get the better of us. So I just want to name that because I am. And I'm hoping you all agree. But I want to point out that imposter syndrome does keep us from accomplishing amazing things. If I'd have let my imposter syndrome get to me way back when I first started, I would have never stepped up to the national position and led the scale across 130 sites nationwide. I would have played small. I would have stuck with my own program. I wouldn't have brought it to that level. And it's a really cool thing that I did that. I helped so many people. I helped shape this field. And I'm here now talking to you. And I wouldn't have done any of that if I had let it keep me, right, from moving forward. So thinking of imposter syndrome, not just as this, thing in our head, but it really does hold us back from taking the step towards those big ideas, from doing the innovative thing, from sharing our ideas, from implementing our ideas, even. And I think that's what we're missing. That's what we lose out on. We lose out on all those opportunities that we could have pursued, or all those accomplishments that we could have had if we just hadn't let that little voice win. Um, and this I see is reflected in dietitians still playing small, having a teaching kitchen in their private practice, not partnering, having a small little operation in their organization that they don't tell anyone about. I see that a lot. I'll mention this and someone's like, "Oh, I've done that before." Or I have this little thing I do with the farmers market. And I'm like, "That counts. That's what we're doing. Talk about it. Share it." I think there's more culinary medicine out there happening. I know there is. I see it. There's more out there happening than we even realize because people aren't identifying with it. They aren't owning that space for themselves. They still feel like imposters in this space, and thus we don't hear about it. But there's so much more out there that we don't even see happening. I think it's rampant because I do think it aligns with a lot of our philosophies. It just makes sense. So I see imposter syndrome holding us back from stepping into leadership roles, talking about it, pitching our program to big decision makers, making those partnerships, showing up in spaces where you do belong, and doing the things you feel called to do, right? Don't hold back is kind of the takeaway point here. So, all of this to say, this is a very real impediment for us, but how do we move forward anyway? Again, I'm going to say it doesn't go away. You just learn to manage it. You learn to deal with it and keep it in its place. I mean, I think ultimately this probably exists in us to just keep us from becoming um, incredibly arrogant, not nice people. So I'm sure there's a reason we have these feelings, but again, we don't need it to consume us or hold us back. So to overcome this, the first thing is just reframing the gap. Oh, you're welcome, Monique. Reframing the gap that you are feeling, right? You're not behind, you're not inadequate, you're not enough. You are still growing and developing and building your space. Think of it that way. This is your space. This is your career. This is your mission, your vocation. Only you get to define that. No one else does. And you're still building it, right? This is just the beginning. Nothing looks impressive at the beginning stages. It looks messy and it's chaotic. You try things out and you start over a few times. That's where you are. You're not behind and you're not missing anything. You're just still building it out. I really appreciate this reframe. This one helps me a lot. Remind myself, especially now that I'm building something new, coming from a place where I had built something cool, stepping away from that and kind of starting over again, right? I'm building whatever it is I'm doing now, and Infuse is part of that. And I'm still figuring out what I want the end result to look like, so to speak, or the end, space. But the next piece is collect the evidence. This one's very powerful, especially with our analytical brains here and our logic-based brains. Keep a running list of your successes. I have a little folder called kudos. I don't know why I landed on that word, but I did. So kudos for Melania. So anytime I do a cool thing, I get praise, I get a nice comment from a client or a coworker or a colleague, I do a screenshot and I add it to my kudos folder. And that way, if I'm feeling like I don't belong, like I don't know what I'm doing, who am I to start this own little community practice, right? I don't have a big organization behind me anymore. But I do have experience that I know is valuable to people because I've seen them thrive. And I've been able to be a part of that. And I really enjoy that. And this is my community. I'm not going to just step away. I just have to redefine my space in it. But I revisit that kudos folder when I need some pep talk. And those I think of, that's the evidence, right? That's the evidence that you are in the right space, that you are doing what you're meant to be doing, that you are having a positive impact on people. So keep a list of that. It could be a list, it could be a folder, a screenshot bank, whatever, however that works for you. But collect the evidence. That's important. We need the evidence to refute the things we're telling ourselves in our mind here. And then going back to the knowledge piece, right? Like I said, you don't have to necessarily go get a PhD or go get a new credential in something, but instead identify the piece that you want, right? Expand your knowledge where it matters the most. You don't have to go all or nothing. You don't have to go to culinary school. Maybe you just want to get more confident with your knife skills. Go take a class. There's a lot of culinary schools that offer community classes. There's a lot of community college that offer adult education classes. Go take a little short course. There's even like grocery stores with teaching kitchens in them that'll offer classes on things like this. YouTube is a wonderful resource. You could just teach yourself this. Watch your YouTube video, practice, right? Go expend your knowledge where it's going to count and make you feel better and complement what you're already doing. You don't have to go all the way. Even something is going to be better than not pursuing anything in that field. Yeah. And then one other piece I like to do, and this one's a little bit more personal, but this helps us with the alignment, is name one thing you do well in this space. And I like to say this out loud. What do you do well in this space? This one's actually hard to answer sometimes, especially when you're in the throes of imposter syndrome, but name it. You can put it in the chat. This would be a great one for the chat. What is one thing you do really well in this space? Even if it's unconventional. Bonus points if it's unconventional. No bonus points. What is that? Maybe there's a few things you do well. Think of yourself. This is another one I like to do. I didn't put it on the screen, but it just came to me. It is just something I do in practice anyway, is sometimes think of yourself as another self. Think of it as a separate person. Like if this was your best friend telling you these things and feeling these things, what would you say to them? You would pep talk them, right? You would say, are you kidding me? You're like an expert in this space. You do this, this, and this. You've done this, this, and this. People come to you for these answers. People seek you out. You have helped XYZ. They will pump you up. So do that to yourself. At least one thing, if not many, but a list is nice too. Yeah. Doesn't have to be kudos from other people. This can just be how you feel about how you're doing and what you're proud of in this space. There we go. We're getting some in the chat. I love it. I'm a Michelin trained chef. I know that will be a great strength when I do get to help others with nutrition. Heck yeah. I feel like I do well engaging participants in a hands-on class when I teach and being a welcoming host teacher. Absolutely. Both great things in this space. I love it. Wonderful dishes to bring to a potluck. Yeah, own it. Whatever it is you feel you do well. Just because someone else does something similar also well doesn't mean you do not do it also well. Two things can coexist. You can both be good at something and for very different reasons. That is a thing. So don't let other people's success, wow, there's a whole quote about this. Sorry, it just came in, that little candle thing. Don't let other people's success take away from your own. It really has nothing to do with you. You are your own thing. You are your own person, your own set of expertise, and you can own your space. Something about, sorry, the quote that came into mind was like, I don't know, something about lighting a candle and dimming other people's candles. I don't remember what it was. I think you know what I'm getting at, but maybe not. I am terrible with quotes verbatim. I always have to look them up ahead of time so I get them right. Okay, that's the end of my spiel. We're going to open it up very shortly for some chit chat and Q&A. if anyone feels like engaging in real time, I know, like I said, this is a very emotionally charged topic for a lot of us. So I will not be upset at all if it's not something you do want to get into. But just remember that this is an evolving space and there's always room for new ideas. Always. Oh, take care, Renata. Thank you. Keep a list of wins, accomplishments, my goodness, and positive feedback so you can remind yourself, hype yourself up, and just remember you don't need to be everything to everyone to be successful. Just create your own space and then step into it. That's all this is. All right. I thought this was a really nice quote. This is something I have as one of my screensavers, so I see this one a lot, and I really like it. Success is the ability to go from failure to failure without any loss of enthusiasm. And I just love that. This one keeps me going because I do feel like I fail a lot, quite frankly. And it helps me learn from it and get over it and maintain my mojo here. So thank you, Winston Churchill, for this one. All right, our little featured resource. This one's not specific to culinary medicine at all, but it is a really great book by Shonda Rhimes. If you don't know who she is, she's kind of the mastermind behind the Bridgerton series on Netflix. Um, oh, that's a nice quote too, Jessica. Or maybe you just said that. Maybe I'm just quoting you. We learn more. What did you say? Whoops. From failure than we do from success. Yes, exactly. Sorry, guys. I just glanced at the chat and got distracted there. Um, and I also remind my students of this, but I have to remind myself too. I feel that. I'm with you. I'm with you. Um, my assistant just popped a link to this book in the chat if you guys want to go check it out on Amazon, but you could get an audiobook too, or however you prefer to consume things, Kindle. But check it out. It's a really nice book. It's not specific to culinary medicine, but it does talk about confronting things that intimidate you, stepping into the space, owning it, overcoming these feelings of fear and inadequacy, especially as an innovative thinker in your field, and kind of going against the grain of convention. So it's a easy listen, easy read, very empowering. Hope you guys enjoy that if you do check it out. Yeah. And that is it for my spiel today. Our next call is going to be May. I'll just put a quick plug in there. Our next call is going to be May 19th, third Tuesday at 3 p.m. I have a special guest speaker that day, so that'll be fun. It'll be like the one we had in February, a little bit more relaxed and conversational versus having the slides and such. But yeah, let's open it up, guys. What thoughts or questions came up for you during today's session? What do you want to talk about? Anything in particular? Even if it's just building off of something we already addressed in the chat. And you're welcome to use the chat or come off of mute for this piece. Whatever you feel called to do. I also put this one out there. You can also ask something or talk about something that's not related to imposter syndrome. That just happens to be our topic, but anything goes. Okay. All right. Working within my own power to say yes. Yeah. There you go. There you go. My own power to say yes. Part of how I'm going to share a little bit. Part of how that one shows up for me is I procrastinate. I'm a procrastinator. I will see opportunities and be aware of them, and my imposter syndrome often shows up as delaying it because I'm afraid to put myself out there, and then I don't even know what I'm really afraid of. It's interesting. It's not necessarily rejection because I've dealt with that, and I do have an internal conviction that I am in the right space and what I have to bring to the table is valuable. But to me, it does play on the sense of belonging. Like I said before, I'm still figuring out where I fit in this community now, that I've shifted into a different space within culinary medicine. Um, and I think I'm just looking for validation of that. So it's difficult for me to to submit proposals right now for some reason. That's kind of how it's coming back around, and I will sit on it till like the night before sometimes, um, and say yes to these That's just from your statement there, Monique, made me think of this because it is my own power to say yes to these opportunities, regardless of what they say in return. And I'm sometimes holding myself back from that, but trying to be better about it. Always moving forward. Oh, thanks. Yeah, you don't have to be everything to everyone to be valuable. Exactly. I was pretty happy with my potluck analogy there. I'd say if we're naming we're naming things we're good at, I think I come up with really great analogies to put concepts into tangible terms for folks. I do think that is one of my gifts. Um, I will also say this. It's something that this has kind of been a little bit more about my own journey in overcoming imposter syndrome in this field in particular, is I found an appreciation for the fact that I don't have all the credentials um, throughout this journey because I realized that's not what my audience cares about. That might be what I care about and other health professionals care about. But the people that I help in my cooking classes and my clients, they really don't care. I mean, maybe that got them in the door a little bit if they're looking for a dietitian, but a lot of them didn't come to me because I'm a dietitian. They came to me because of how I spoke about food and because I invited them into this space and I help them through things. And that's actually what helps me defeat some of this in my own brain, is reminding myself that those credentials don't matter to the people I'm helping. I can help them anyway. And yeah, just in case that helps anyone else out there with the credential thing or with the comparison thing. Yeah. All right. We got a quiet bunch today. Well, if there's nothing else going on, I'll give it just another minute or so, but we can wrap up early and you can get 10 minutes of your life back. Yeah. Instead of Melania just sharing her life stories for the rest of the time. Um, all right, Jessica, I'm going to read your comment out loud here. It's a big one. I got to make my screen bigger there. Thank you for sharing your experience in imposter syndrome. It can be hard to share, but important to talk through in safe spaces like this. Yeah. I found myself recently unexpectedly challenged to be authentic, and it has helped me question what's next for me. Thanks for that feedback, Jessica. I'm so glad it's helped. I I feel like we need to talk about this more, quite frankly, and I dance around it in a lot of my infused topics. I mean, you've been with me for a bit now, Jessica, and I know a few others of you have. Um, Even if I'm not talking about this directly, it shows up in everything, right? It's kind of an ever-present thing that could be present no matter what avenue of culinary medicine we're currently in pursuit of or dealing with. Um, but this is the first time I've addressed it directly. I think I'm going to do that a little bit more. I find strength in naming what I'm afraid of out loud. It kind of dispels some of the fear, and I'm also a verbal processor, so talking about things also helps me become more comfortable with it. Um, so I'm glad it was helpful for you too. Thank you for sharing. It was very brave of you to do that too. It's not easy to share our fears and insecurities and even just the behind the scenes stuff with other people. We've kind of oh gosh, now I had another thought. I feel like this has also gotten a little bit worse since COVID to a degree. Just with that like the loneliness epidemic. I think this is also somewhat a part of that, right? We are we are more starved for community and connection than we were before. And it's showing up in more places for us. And because imposter syndrome has a lot to do with a feeling of belonging in this space in our vocation, I really think it's amplified now more maybe than it was before. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Jessica says, even on these calls, I think to myself, I'm not doing culinary medicine much in my current role. I want to do more, but I feel so overwhelmed in other aspects of my job that it feels discordant and misaligned. I think COVID forced a lot of us to step back from our usual tasks and think about whether what we do is aligned with who we are. Oh, that's incredible. You're exactly right. It is. Actually, that's a big thing I did too. I had a whole experience with that. Yeah. Yeah. Quite quite honestly, and I don't think I've said this out loud to anyone in this community, but that is part of why I left the VA. I didn't feel aligned with it anymore. I also have this sense that I accomplished what I was there to do, and I needed to move on to the next thing. But there was some discordance there for me and misalignment, even after all I'd accomplished there and been through and created. So I did. That's kind of what spurred this entire movement of me stepping out on my own and into more of a mentorship space. Yeah. It's a lot. We're pulled in so many different directions, right? We have what we want to do, who we are, our own sense of identity and professional identity, but we're other things to other people too. And sometimes we do get a little hung up on those expectations. And it, I don't want to say clouds our judgment, but it's sometimes difficult to know what it is we want or if we're just acting because someone else wants it. um, and we're kind of conditioned to want it, so to speak, right? It's all, quite frankly, it's all very meta. This is something I talk about with my lay clients too, around food, right? Why do we eat what we eat? What goes into this food choice? Do you eat it because you want to, or is that just what Instagram said you should eat, or your mom said you should eat, right? It's just kind of the same thing, different topic. It's so interesting. Yeah, still got to pay the bills. Yep. Yes. Oh, I get that. Maybe we'll do a whole topic on that about this to me feels like that kind of abundance versus scarcity mindset kind of feeling. It is certainly in the realm of mindset for sure. Feeling held back because the thing you want to do, we are not sure if that will give us that, support the lifestyle that we have. That is definitely a big one that holds a lot of people back. And for what it's worth, there's no wrong choices there. I think it's perfectly valid to support your lifestyle and your financial well-being with something that isn't what you want to do per se. And I think you can do that and still hold space for your passions and your identity. Yeah. I think this is another one that is kind of falls into that all or nothing. We feel like if there is misalignment, we have to go all in on something else that does feel aligned. We kind of feel that pull, but we can make space for both. We could do either one. We could go all in or we could not. It's always our choice. Always our choice. Thank you so much for this discourse, Jessica. I appreciate that. This has felt like therapy today. Aw, so nice. You're welcome. I can't call it that, but sure. I think it is therapeutic to discuss our mutual challenges and kind of just, the human experience, even within this subset of culinary medicine. Quite frankly, it's something that comes up, I'm sure, in any profession. So this is a safe space to talk about whatever that is for you. Yeah. And I'm honored to have held it with you. All right, guys. Unless there's any, whoop, we have one more comment. Not related, but is there a group chat besides that on LinkedIn where members get to interact more with each other? Ooh, there is. Good question. I'm going to ask my assistant to pop in the link to our LinkedIn group. I do have a group on LinkedIn for people in Infuse. So she'll pop that in just a second. And then, yeah, you can join that. I'll be very honest, I'm not great at keeping things going in there. I am I'm a very in-person person. I have a hard time operating in online spaces, um, which gives me some imposter syndrome too. That's a whole nother ball. Um, but I'm trying to get that space livened up a bit. So I would love to have someone who wants to interact more. That would be great. Please join. Please join. I cross post things that we talk about in Infuse, and at some point I'll start sharing some more resources again as I think of it. But there's the link for you. Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. You're welcome. I do have plans to one day create an alternate community, not on LinkedIn. I am just slow. I move slow, and that is something I've had to come to terms with. I will move forward, but at my own pace. Um, yeah. Oh, there we go. I guess I shouldn't make assumptions. I guess I just supposed everyone knew about it. So yeah, please join the LinkedIn group. Yeah. And that way we can chat more about things that come up. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, awesome. Cool. All right, guys. Anything else? Please just you can just shoot me an email if you'd like to, or find me on LinkedIn, post in the LinkedIn group now that we have the link there for you all. Um, but I think that's gonna be it for today. Yeah. I really appreciate you joining me today. We had a very small call, but very engaged people, which I love. I love it. That's what I'm here for. Um, so thanks everyone for sharing. And even if you didn't, I'm pretty sure everyone did. Even if you didn't, you know, thanks for being here and humoring us and listening to us and thinking about this. I hope this shows up somewhere in your own work and helps you in some way. That's it for today. And I will see you all hopefully in May on the next call. Take care, everyone. Bye.